Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect. This week on the show, kind of a special occasion, we're going to do a review and we are going to talk, of course, about Superman. Before we get into details about that though, first, I'm David Lott. I think I probably already said that, but here is also Bobby Jackson joining us. How's it going, Bobby?
I'm feeling super. How about you?
Oh, wow. Okay. And also here is Michelle Hillard. How's it going, Michelle? How are you feeling?
Super duper, David.
Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know how to respond to that.
I only did that because Bobby did it. Honestly, I wasn't going to say that, but
yeah, we are going to review.
You could have said you're feeling terrific.
You could.
I guess I could have
said that.
Oh, well, late now.
Anyway, yeah, we're going to review Superman. This episode. We finally have all seen it. We are going to start off with spoiler-free thoughts, but we will get to spoiler territory eventually. So when we do, we will give plenty of heads up. There will, if you're watching us on YouTube, it will be plastered on the screen that we are talking spoilers. So fear not, if you have not seen this movie, we're going to do everything we can to warn you that we're going to dive into spoiler territory. So we are trying not to ruin this for anybody. If you're not watching this live, we are streaming this live, by the way, right now on YouTube. But if you're not watching this live and you're watching it sometime in the future, yeah, it is Friday night. We've at least a couple of us have had this movie to think about for about 24 hours. And then Bobby, you saw it earlier in the week, so you had a little more time. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's get right into it, shall we? Any thoughts, I guess, before we start? Anything anything I'm forgetting?
Nothing other than the fact that it just feels like it's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for this movie forever since it was obviously announced, and we knew that DCU was starting under James Gunn's leadership. So it feels good to know that we are finally on the other side of this movie coming out because it had been anticipated for so long.
Yeah, this is true. It felt almost weird that I was finally sitting down in a movie theater watching this.
Yeah.
But anyway.
He's been busy, you know? I mean, he's got Peacemaker, and then at the same time he was doing, was it Creature Commando? Like, you know, there's a lot of, been a busy dude. He was doing all that while he was filming Superman.
We're not complaining that it took too long. It just feels like it's been forever.
It takes a while.
All right. Well, spoiler-free thoughts first. And I guess I'm going first. We have a bowl of destiny that as we've called it, that we use to like decide who's going to go first in these situations because we can never agree. Funny thing is we kind of had agreed, but then we found the bowl and then the bowl just gave us the same order we had already agreed upon. So I guess it was meant to be that I'm going to do this first and talk about Superman.
The bowl knows.
So I'm going to say first, by the way, Bobby, I mean, I know we're not getting to you yet, but I know you did a out of the theater reaction to the movie. I have not seen it. I don't know what you think of this movie yet. It was tough though. Like it was one thing to not watch it before I saw the movie, but after I saw the movie, it was very difficult to not go.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that might be the case.
Yeah.
I totally thought that.
I spent today, like, I'd go on YouTube and, like, I'd see it suggested. I'm like, nope. Like, just keep going. Ignore.
Yeah.
I totally wondered that, too, because I mentioned to you before that I was going to do an out of theater reaction because I got to see it on Tuesday for that Amazon showing. And I was like, well, I'm hesitating on putting it up because I want to talk about it on the show with you and Michelle and be fresh about it as opposed to having my thoughts out there and you watching it ahead of time. So I was like, oh, and you're like, no, I won't watch it ahead of time. Then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I wonder if he'll watch it afterwards because he'll be so curious after he sees the movie that he'll wonder what my thoughts were and end up watching it afterwards. So it sounds like you were able to go through it and not actually do that. Yeah.
If I had done it, I wouldn't have lied to you and told you I didn't. I would have told you, but
okay.
But no, I resisted. I was like, it's 24 hours. I can wait. He'll tell me on the show like we normally do things. So I'll hold off. But anyway, Superman. Yeah. Like I said, we saw it Thursday night, last night. So we've had about almost exactly 24 hours with this movie to kind of think about. And I wanted to, I guess, start off by saying I think a lot of times I've jumped on here, and when we've talked about a movie, I'll be like, oh man, I really wish I could have seen this movie a second time. That happens a lot. And, you know, not being professional critics, like that doesn't almost ever happen, at least for me, to see a movie 2 times before we get to review it. And I'm bringing that up because I feel like this might be the ultimate situation where I really, really wish I could have seen this movie a second time before we're sitting down to do this. So much so that I was almost like, I don't think I could do the show. Maybe Michelle and Bobby will just do it and I'll wait. Like, or we can reschedule. Like, I really want to see this movie a second time before we talk about it. But alas, it wasn't possible. I do have plans to see it a second time at this point, but it's, you know, in a couple days. And we really wanted to get this review out there as soon as possible. So I've only seen it once. And I say that because I'm not saying I don't know what I think about this movie. Overall, I enjoyed Superman, but it is so incredibly different from anything we've seen before when it comes to Superman, at least on screen, I should say, or on film. And I went into this movie fully expecting that. And my expectations were all about like this being a very different take. And even with that said, it is still incredibly different. So much so that it's like, I really want to sit with it for a little bit like I am now for a couple days and see this movie again. And I really could see it going one of 2 ways. I mean, most likely, I think what will happen is I will see this movie again. I have plans to see it on Sunday as of right now. I'll see this movie again in a couple days and I will probably love it more. But I don't know. There's a possibility I'll watch this movie again and be like, actually, the stuff that doesn't work for me got worse. I don't know. I really don't know. And it's kind of frustrating. But I mean, yeah, if I had to give like a quick elevator review to somebody about this movie who's like, okay, you saw it. What did you think? Like, I think this is just a good movie. I think it's very entertaining for the most part, but it, you know, depending on your expectations going into it as either a Superman fan or not a Superman fan, or what kind of Superman movie you want, like, could really say a lot about whether or not you're going to enjoy this film or not. It's nice to see that, like on Rotten Tomatoes, for example, that the popcorn rating is so high. I mean, last I checked, it was like 95%. I assume it's still somewhere around that. And by the popcorn rating, if you don't know, is usually like the audience score. That's what they call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's, last I checked, incredibly high, and that's fantastic. And I hope it stays that way. And if to those people who walked out of their first showing going, oh my God, that was amazing, this is the Superman I always wanted, I am super happy for you. And I may get there, but for whatever reason, seeing it one time, I enjoyed it, but I don't know if it's just me bringing my own expectation baggage into it or something that made me not like love it. And again, that's why I'm kind of repeating myself, but I really want to watch this movie again. I may jump on here by myself if I have to again after I see it that second time and kind of redo this review. I don't know, but there's a lot of great stuff. I mean, I love David Corn Sweat as Superman. I think I like this Superman as a character a lot, and I like just about everybody in this movie a lot. There's definitely standouts, but everybody's really good. But it also does feel like a movie at, you know, this has a runtime of almost exactly like 2 hours, right? I don't know how true it is, but it does feel like a movie that would be really good at 2.5 hours, you know, and that it was trimmed down to make it a very well-paced, quick movie at 2 hours. But if there is a 2.5 hour cut out there or one ever to be done, I would love to see it. But that's my quick reaction review to Superman after one showing. With that, Bobby, you're next. What did you think of Superman? You've seen it once or twice now?
I have seen it twice now. So
All right.
Wow.
I got to see it the first time on the Tuesday Amazon showing, and then I watched it again, I guess it was yesterday, when it opened wide to everyone to be able to see it. So unlike you, I have had perspective, time to sit with it and be able to digest it and see where I land with this thing. And the interesting thing is, if you just look at the past history of the Superman we've had on film, you've had your Christopher Reeve, and then what we jump to Brandon Routh, I guess, and then after that Henry Cavill, and now David Cornsweet. I would say all of those people have played this character in the version that they were given to play exceptionally well. I've liked them all, and so I even with the Bryan Singer version of Superman, there's things I like in that, even if I don't necessarily think it's the best Superman movie or best representation of a Superman movie for me out there. And so with this one, it's like I've been looking forward to this one for so long because it's a new iteration, and it promised the idea of being a more comic book accurate, brighter, hopeful version of the character. And also along those lines with James Gunn, for all of his movies I've seen, which is pretty much all of them minus one, I think, I've either liked or loved them. So obviously he has a great track record. So coming into this, it was the idea that this is going to be the kickstart of this new universe, and just being able to see the lead up to it with all the other things that we've had, and we haven't had much, but it's just I guess Creature Commandos. I saw that. I really enjoyed that series as well, and the weeks, I guess, or 2 weeks ago, there had been some people who were screened the movie, who got to screen the movie, and it'd been very positive. So to me, the levels of anticipation were super high. So I came out of the first showing, and I was feeling like, okay, um, I guess overall, I did not like this movie, and well, let me back that up. It's not that I didn't dislike this movie. It's not that I disliked this movie. I was disappointed by this movie. I guess to rephrase it a little bit. And so I'll get into the reasons why in just a moment. But I thought after that, because I had seen that screening, and a lot of people saw that screening, and so I started looking online to see what the general consensus was from the people who went to go see it, and a lot of people love it. And so I start to feel like, am I in that boat in one of these situations where I dislike something that most people love? And that's kind of a rare position for me to be in a lot of times. I don't typically find myself in that situation. The only other time I can remember in, I guess, quasi recent history that that's happened was during the time when I watched Thor Ragnarok. Most people love that movie, and I'm one of the few in a boat on an island by myself that says, it didn't quite work for me. And so I found myself in that situation after watching it the first time around. The second time I saw it was yesterday, so I went into it with new reset eyes, I guess, knowing what I was in for, understanding how this movie's structured and all those things. How would I come out of it after that? Would it lift me up? And sort of what you're saying, David, in terms of after seeing it a second time, will that make you love it on the level of how other people are coming out of it? Because most people are just over the moon about it, which I love that. I love the fact that so many people are loving this Superman, and this has this hope for DCU as a new beginning, and all the things that can come from it. So for me, it's like I want to be on that party boat too. I don't want to be over here where I'm feeling alone, and not feeling the joy and love that everybody else is feeling. So going into the second showing, I was like, all right, I'm opening myself up to this in a new way to see if I can get on the same wavelength. And I came out of that one feeling like I was more, I guess, secure in my thoughts the first time around. And if not so, maybe even a little more negative because I started to see other things that I noticed that I didn't quite like, that I didn't notice the first time around. And I think that the things that stuck true to me that I disliked about this movie were first and foremost the cinematography. Uh, that fisheye lens that's used for flight, I don't like it. I'll just flat out say I just don't like that. I like a more traditional pulled back look, I guess. Maybe that makes me old school, I don't know, but I just don't really care for that look. It makes it look weird. um it doesn't look fake, but it just looks weird, and I can't get my brain to adjust to it. um the Typically where I think James Gunn shines is the music. And while there's score from the Richard Donner stuff, that works. Obviously, it's tried and true. But even some of his new stuff works. But it's, I think, some of the needle drops that you would typically be on board for in a Guardians movie or something like that just wasn't working for me in this Superman movie. And that's just my, I guess, taste in terms of the specific songs he picked. And I even understand the songs that he picked, but it just, for whatever reason, didn't connect to me on that level. And um, the one of the other things that I think got worse for me in certain ways, watching it again, was some of the tone. One of the things that didn't work for me with Ragnarok was the timing of the jokes. It would be like a serious moment, or at least something that was thought provoking, and then all of a sudden it get undercut by a joke. In this, it wasn't necessarily that serious moments are undercut by jokes. It's just that there was a lot of jokes, and for me, it was like the ratio in which the jokes work to the ratio of it not working, it was like 2 to 1. So for every one joke that worked, two of them didn't work. And so that was hard for me to, uh if I wasn't on board for it the first time, it wasn't going to happen the second time. So that stayed consistent between the two viewings. So that didn't quite work for me. Um and even something, David, you mentioned as far as the pace goes, I do think that it could have benefited. And if there is a longer cut out there, I think my level of enjoyment for the movie itself would go up, because I felt like certain things were given the short stick. And even within, there was a report that went out months ago that this was test screened, and one of the things that didn't make the cut were the way this movie was supposed to have been framed. And I don't know the legitimacy of any of this, because I don't think that James Gunn has come out and said, yeah, it was going to be this way, but because of test screenings, we changed it. But the reports were that this movie was structured based on the days of the week. And you'd see one scene, it'd be a hard cut to, say, in Monday, and then something happens throughout that day, and then the next day hard cuts to Tuesday, and then you have that. And so I felt that when I was watching it the first time and the second time, of how I could have seen how that would have worked. And so it was like, yeah, I don't, I can, it's unfortunate that they cut that out to me in terms of the way I would have been able to receive the way the structure of the film was. And so I guess part of that was that maybe I got a little bit more used to it, knowing that it was coming in a second showing of it. But that remains true, the fact that I felt like it could have been structured in a better way. But on the flip side of that, the things that absolutely work for me are all the characters. I'd say certain ones don't work quite as well, but for the core characters that we got, like you said, David, for David Corn Sweat as Superman, that absolutely works for me. Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane absolutely works for me. Lex Luthor works for me. Mr. Terrific. Like, there's all of these characters that work for me. So on the other side of that, of all the negative things I said, that those things work for me. The world that James Gunn has built, this lived-in world, all that works for me, and it makes me excited for where the DCU is going and to see these characters again. I just don't necessarily care for the movie that these characters are in. And so that's where I'm kind of like coming out on the other side of it, where I'm more mixed negative than mixed positive. But I am still that much excited to see going forward where these characters go and seeing more stories from it, and enjoying this DC universe that he's created, that he's laid the foundational groundwork for. I'm in on it and I want to see more from it. I just didn't particularly care for the movie itself, if that makes sense.
All right. That leaves you, Michelle. It sounds like so far I'm the mixed positive. Bobby, sounds like you just said you're mixed negative. Michelle, where would you fall?
I'd fallen mixed.
Right in the middle.
I can see the island of hopeful dreams and love for this film, and I can see the boat that Bobby's hanging out on, and I'm kind of not really sure which way to paddle right now. Which I'm with Bobby. Like, I'm like, was I in a weird mood? What am I missing? Everybody's loving this. I should be loving this. And I wasn't loving it. I enjoyed it. There was definitely some good stuff. I would say I agree, Bobby and David, 100%. When it comes to David Cornsweet, is it Cornsweet? Cornsweet? I don't know.
I think it's Corin Sweat.
Corin
Sweat.
I think he's a very good Superman. Facts. And honestly, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, I think she might be my favorite Lois Lane. And that's saying something, because up until she had her performance for this, it was definitely Amy Adams. But no, I think she's my favorite Lois Lane, like, that I've ever seen. And that includes like television shows, all of it. She's my favorite for sure. I thought she killed it. I think as a whole, everybody did a really great job at their character that they were playing. But yeah, I think Bobby said it really well just now when he was like, I like these characters. I just don't know if this is the story I wanted to see them in. Like, I like this kind of a more lighthearted take on Superman. I like this genuine good guy to his core, almost on the edge of like sappy and like almost like camp it. Like, you almost want to believe he's such a good guy, and he is, and I love that. And that is Superman, and I love that portion of it. But yeah, I have a lot of mixed feelings on a lot of other stuff. And this might sound weird. I really liked Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. I don't feel like Luthor's motivations are portrayed spectacularly well in this, honestly. And we can get into that in spoilers. But I mean, like, his base motivations are there, but his motivation and his total hatred of Superman, I don't think was established spectacularly well. And I'll dive into that later. I know what you mean about the fisheye thing when they're flying, Bobby, and it's like the downside is knowing that there's shots that were done with David as Superman flying, and they were live action shots with this fish lens, but the fish lens makes it look like it's computer generated, but I know it's not, and that's weird. Like, distorts the way a person looks, the face. And yeah, I wasn't really feeling that either. You know, now it's interesting though. I feel like when you see Crypto flying around, and Crypto's no spoiler, he's in all the trailers. When you see Crypto flying around, it didn't bother me as much, but it bothered me seeing Superman fly that way, because it made what I know are live shots. There's literally behind the scenes photos all over the internet, live shots of him doing the flying sequences, you know, on harnesses and things with, you know, obviously green screen behind him, but it makes his face not look real. That's so weird to me, to make Superman's face look unreal when he's flying. I don't know. That's bizarre. But yeah, I thought the needle drop was kind of lacklustery. I think, and I say that until the very last song. I think the last song actually nailed it. That was really good. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of good though. I'm saying all this, and there's a lot of good that happens. I think I'm so used to watching Man of Steel, and it's a dark film. And by dark, I don't mean like just tonally, it looks dark. It was nice to watch a Superman movie that's vivid in color. And it reminds me of when I was a kid and watching Christopher Reeve Superman, Richard Donner Superman, and seeing the color come to life on his costume and some of the sets and the backgrounds. Like, it was refreshing. I really thoroughly enjoyed that. Like, that felt right. I think that set the tone. That was good. And there's a lot of things that I think are good that I can't really talk about until we get to spoilers. But there are things that work for me, and then there's a lot of things that don't quite work for me, and there's a lot of things that I think could be better. What I find interesting is you guys are saying the runtime, you would love it if it was a longer film, and I'd be down with that if it really and truly made it better. What's funny to me is I feel like that almost 2-hour film felt like a 2-hour film. At no point watching this film, unfortunately, was I like, wow, this bad boy's almost over? Holy cow, that went by so fast. I'm so zoned in and not at any point in time. The entire time I was going, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like, it just kind of kept like, da 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 da. I was just like, we have got to get there at some point, right? Like, and I think that's not a good feeling when you're watching a Superman movie. Like, that's not good for me, in my opinion. I don't think that makes a good film. And yeah, I don't know. I am mixed. I would love to be dog paddling to the island of pure joy right now, but I'm just not. I'm kind of hanging out in the waters, and I just don't really know which way to go. I know right now, David and I do have tickets to go see it again at the end of this weekend, and I'm torn on if I even want to watch it again right now. I don't know. So I'm mixed. Maybe I sound more negative. I don't know. I'm mixed on this film. I'm very mixed.
I did not expect to be the most positive person in the room here.
Oh, I did.
Well, I did.
I figured it was going to be you and Bobby, right? Like this.
Well, yeah, but you two
And
aren't in
then
my
I was
head,
gonna
so
be
that's
way
why
over
I'm
here.
saying I did not expect to be the most positive person
I
in the
knew
room
I was
here.
going to be way down there.
Fair enough.
Um,
It is interesting, though. I did not expect that we'd all be on that same wavelength, just mostly based on the audience score, like you said, from Rotten Tomatoes, and just the amount of different tweets and different things I've looked through that seem so positive that I just felt like, okay, I'm going to be alone in a sea of voices that is like, okay, I didn't really think it was as good as I wanted it to be. And I was going to be okay in saying that because I'm not going to come on here and say something that's not true just to feel like I'm in with the popular kids.
Right.
I'm going to speak to it in a way that is honest so that anyone who watches this will say, well, I can trust that he is saying his truth, even if it's not something I agree with. So I do feel that way. And it's like I said, this is probably the first movie I can ever say that I wasn't all the way positive on or mixed negative on, that I hope makes $1 billion at the box office. I don't think I've ever been able to say that about a movie that I didn't really care for. And like Michelle mentioned, I've seen this movie twice, and I honestly don't know or think that I would probably ever see it a third time. And that's so odd of a thing for me to even imagine. But yet, like I said, I do want to see these characters live on and go on and be in other projects and do other things because I do like these characters and the actors that portrayed them. Everything all along those terms I really thought was great and just want to see more of, and see even, I would almost, I hesitate to say it, but I would almost be okay with seeing a second version, well, not a second version, but a part two of Superman directed by James Gunn, because of his track record with me from previous stuff. I feel like he's allowed a miss in my book, I guess, and that he would
Right.
maybe make a different cut or something in a different style within giving it a second crack. So I don't necessarily say that I think that he, oh, keep James Gunn away from this and he's the worst thing there. It's not like, I think I would feel maybe that way if this was a Taika Waititi thing, and that he's had two cracks at Thor. Now it's kind of like, all right, maybe let somebody else take over now,
Yeah.
as opposed to he's had this one shot. So let's see what he could do with the second one if given the chance. And obviously, him being co-head of DC, he can do that if he wants to. But he may also want to say, let me pass it on to someone else, as long as they kind of carry through this vision I have overall for this DC universe, as opposed to trying to copy and emulate the exact same thing I did with the tone and everything for the first one.
Yeah, you mentioned, Michelle, the runtime, and you definitely had a different feeling in terms of like the pacing, and I guess not so much the pacing, but just like how you, like, it felt long to you. It did not. I mean, I wouldn't say it was for one, it didn't feel long to me, but it's a matter of like, I would want another 30 minutes just because it does feel like a movie that's been like kind of cut down, and I wish characters had more development and scenes had more room to breathe, and it just feels like a movie that at one time was a much longer film and probably would have been better off that way. But yeah, also for me, I was not watching. At times I was watching it going, it's not that this feels long, but I can tell, man, we're getting close to the end, and I wish we weren't, because I wish we had more to see and more just kind of character development in this movie that we're not getting. So that's why I say, if there is a director's cut one day, I will be super happy to see it, and I have a feeling I will enjoy it more than I did this one.
Yes, it felt long to me. It also felt choppy as hell. And I feel like there's a lot of character development and like depth growing of the story and just more intricate things that were done with this story that we're not seeing. And I think that for those reasons, it totally could benefit for another half an hour just to get more of that. Like, I'm with David. I like dialogue. Give me some oomph to feel these characters more, to feel this storyline more. And we just weren't getting that. And I felt like we were just kept getting these chopped things just to make sure that after every like 10 minutes, 12 minutes of dialogue, there was an action, something happening, something, or there has to be a metahuman on the screen every 8 minutes. Like, had to be. Like, it's just like, it's cool. You can just have the humans talk amongst themselves, and that's fine. And you can just let them have conversations. I think there's a spectacular scene, and I will not spoil it, but there's a spectacular scene between Lois and Clark pretty early in the movie. And the dialogue in that was delicious. Loved it. It was such a great conversation. And that scene alone, I was like, okay, if this is what we're getting, great. And that was the last time we had great dialogue or conversation in the entirety of the movie. And I was like, wow, really? That was the only, okay, cool. We're just, all right, that's fine. I think on one side, most people seeing this movie know these characters. You know Superman and Clark Kent. You know who Lois Lane is. You know who Jimmy is. You know everybody. You know what Lex Luthor is. Like, he's the bad dude. And I get that we all know these things. I'm not saying that I need to start from scratch with everybody or anything. I just feel like there's moments like I felt like you were getting to the really good insides of Lois Lane, and then it would pull back to go to something else. And I was like, oh, and then we never came back to it, you know? Like, I just felt like just as you started to scratch the surface a little more to these people, we're back into an action scene, or there's got to be a meta human doing something, or some like, I wanted more that. And I get it. It's a superhero movie. You know, it's a comic book movie. Of course, there's going to be action and metahumans and things happening. But there could have been more. And I think because it's just constantly chopping and going into those things, it just felt long. Like, it's hard to explain that, but it just did. It just felt like, wow, we're just jumping through. And yet we're still not getting anywhere at the same time. How is this happening? And that was frustrating as hell.
Okay. But I guess anything before we talk spoilers? I don't know what else to add right now without kind of digging more into the movie. So.
No, I mean, I think it's, like I said before, I think it's great how many people are seeming to be able to connect. There's so many people, in terms of what I read of someone saying, you know, I've been trying to get my girlfriend into comics and comic book movies, and she watched this and loved it. And there's like, oh, my kids went and they loved it. And so many of those. And it's like, I'm absolutely on board for that. I'm happy, because that means that we can keep this comic book movie train going, that people are finding their way to it or reinvigorating their love for it, because there had been some fall off in terms of the amount of people that have been going to the theater to see these movies. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's a happy occasion that while I'm glad that the majority, and an overwhelming majority, seem to be loving it, because I want to keep it going. So if these people are loving it and they can sing to the weekend, which the first day previews seem to be exciting from that standpoint, then it means that we can get more, and that there's enough people who are on board with it that aren't going to be dreading the next thing and being able to enjoy the next thing that we got. So it's like, okay, bring on Supergirl when it comes out next year.
I guess one thing I would, I don't know. I guess also curious to get your guys' take on that. I have, again, after only one showing, somewhat mixed feelings on, is the decision to not like just completely reboot the Superman theme. I love the John Williams score from Superman. It's iconic, and Superman has an iconic theme, and it's not ever used like super like not explicitly, but like exactly in the way it's used in the Christopher Reeve Superman films. But the theme is basically the same. And you've got two composers on this movie, John Murphy, and I think it's David Fleming. I think it's the second composer. And you touched on the music earlier, Bobby, and I forgot I wanted to kind of follow up on this. But I do have mixed feelings on the score. Like, there are times, like, especially there's one in particular scene, and again, I know we're not talking about spoilers yet, but there's a scene later in the film where you hear this kind of like electric guitar version of the theme, and it works perfectly. Mm-hmm. Like, it is a highlight of the score in this movie, and you hear that in the trailer. This is it's not a new theme that's not out there to the public. But being a James Gunn film and knowing how James Gunn shines and what he's good at, there are times I will admit that I wish there was more needle drop in this movie. Yeah. Because there's one scene in particular with needle drop that works, for me anyway, incredibly well. And it's one of those scenes where it's like James Gunn being James Gunn, and for me it works. And I was like, I have to say that we had more of this. I mean, James Gunn, even though it's a Superman movie, you're clearly making this different than any other Superman film we've seen before. So why not continue to lay into it and do what you're good at? And I guess I wish there had been more needle drop. But going back to the score itself, I don't know. There's a part of me that wishes that they hadn't used the Superman theme and just, I mean, hey, we're rebooting everything. Why not reboot the theme? But I don't know. At times it also worked for me. And at times it did give me the Superman feels. And so I do get it. I'm not saying I'm like definitely falling on the side of like, oh, they should have not have used this at all. I guess I'm torn. So I was curious if you guys had any thoughts.
I agree. I think it's a mixture. It's like on one side, the nostalgia for the John Williams score and having it come through and shine in certain moments felt good. I was like, oh, this feels right. And then, but at the same time, I'm with you. Like, I think there should be more needle drop in this. I think it should have more James Gunn in it. I think it could have benefited from a totally new theme. And I think it could have been interesting to have heard that. We're not getting that. Like, I today listened to the album and it's just different variations of the same stuff that we've had in the past. I'm not saying the stuff in the past is bad. I just could have gone for something new. Like you said, they're rebooting everything. Why not? Why not create your own?
Bobby, any thoughts or any more thoughts? I know you already talked about the score a little bit.
I would just say that in terms of the actual theme, Superman's theme, I do feel as though there were times when it worked and there was times it didn't. There's a couple times I can think of offhand where I was like, okay, that's meant to invoke a certain type of nostalgia and feeling, and it feels forced in this moment. You're trying to manipulate my feelings, and I feel it, and I don't like it. But there's other times when
dang it,
exactly. And sometimes it was. There was a couple times it was natural, and it fit right in. But the fact that I noticed it, and that's not something I typically notice. So if for me to notice it means that it's out of pocket. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing, how it usually does for me, where I don't notice it and someone will mention it. I'll be like, oh yeah, that was good. And I'm usually just kind of like, it's background for me a lot of times, but for me to notice it in a way that stands out in this particular instance means that it felt out of sync for me in a way that it doesn't typically feel like that. So it's mixed. I guess the needle drops for me, one worked, one didn't. So I'm kind of split on it, but then at the same time, it's kind of like I almost feel in a sort of a different way in the terms of the needle drops. Into where you're saying, David, where you kind of feel like you almost would have liked to have seen a different score doing its own thing, standing on its own two legs for this new iteration. I almost feel like I would have rather James Gunn, if he's using needle drops, to have had how do I say this? A new soundtrack, I guess, instead of using music that's already been out to fit with it.
Get how Prince to make an entire soundtrack album for your new Superman movie.
I was going to update that a little bit and say similar to how Kendrick Lamar did for Black Panther, and that there was new music for those needle drops that they use. And so it's kind of like I wouldn't have mind him doing something completely different for himself and making new music for this in that way. But like I said, the ones he used, there's some that worked and some that didn't. So I'm kind of like, I guess the musical choices I didn't quite get in line with, because maybe just because I didn't know the song. So that could be part of it as well. It wasn't something that I recognized. But whereas with a lot of the Guardians music, I recognize it and it fit so well to me. But yeah, this one is just a little bit different for me.
Right. I guess I can say too, this is spoiler free. I didn't really, I guess, directly touch on some of the actors that I think you guys kind of highlighted. I mean, I did say, I like David Corenswet's Superman. I would also agree that this is, I think, easily my favorite Lois. I don't even think it's a competition.
Yeah.
And if anything, I just wish, kind of like I'm going to say this about almost every character, I just wish she had had more to even do, and she does have plenty to do in this movie, but I could even have more, especially just her being a reporter.
She shined in those moments.
She's like, she is for me the perfect comic, like from the comic version of Lois Lane for sure. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just had a thought, and I could see one thing that they could do going forward with her is, if I remember correctly, and I could have this out of, I'm thinking of something else when I'm inferring it, but it was either in Justice League Unlimited or perhaps some of these direct to streaming animated movies. But I recall Lois popping up in different superhero movies that Superman wasn't involved in because
Right.
she's a reporter and because she knows all these characters through Superman, that she's appeared in different things. And I could see them doing that with Rachel Brosnahan because it seems like it'd be like, I wouldn't necessarily call her the Nick Fury, but I could see how she could have a through line and end up in Supergirl's movie because she's Superman's cousin, or end up in a Mr. Terrific movie because of some of the scenes she shares with him. And so I I I I do agree that I wish she was in it more, but I feel like of all the characters, we will get to see her more going forward than some of the others.
Yeah. But yeah, Mr. Terrific was fantastic. I mean, you could easily, if you make a Mr. Terrific show, a Mr. Terrific solo film, and sign me the fuck up. I will watch it, the shit out
Oh,
of that.
I was gonna say, could you imagine a Mr. Terrific like HBO show?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean,
Oh, you could do a double billing and have like a Mr. Terrific and then a Peacemaker like back to back. Oh, that'd be a nice night.
it would be
That'd
fantastic.
be cozy.
I liked Hawk Girl. I liked the like kind of terrifying screech face thing she would have going
Yeah.
on when she was flying around. I was a fan. Guy Gardner's fine. Like I don't dislike the character, and I always like Nathan Fillion, but I mean it's not like I thought he was like amazing. I would just say he's fine. The humor aspect of him. I guess I'm in a like or not dislike. I'm just whatever about him.
I was holding my thoughts on that for spoiler.
But you mentioned Lex, Michelle, and I would agree. But I could also I say this probably about a lot of characters going back to. I mean, it's not a spoiler to say that we're jumping into this movie in a way where we're not doing like backstory stuff. We're not seeing like
Right.
a Superman origin story. We're not seeing like a Lex Luthor origin story, and we're kind of jumping into the middle, like volume 2 of a comic kind of thing. And in one sense, I'm glad that that's how they're handling it. But then there's aspects of it that don't work in terms of the development of the characters. And like Lex, I do agree. Like I think Nicholas Hoult is a really terrible like Lex Luthor is a terrible person, and he does a really good job portraying that.
Yeah.
But yeah, some motivation stuff is kind of missing. And for sure. But overall, there's not really anybody in the cast that I dislike. There's one like kind of decision in regards to a character that I'm kind of like somewhat confused by, but there's a few things I'm kind of confused by in this film.
Interesting.
yeah,
And again, we're about to jump into spoilers, so we'll get into that here in a second.
yeah, because I think when it comes to like the humor and stuff, I was waiting for spoilers. There's a few things I'm waiting for spoilers, but
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I think there's a lot that we're all gonna go. Yeah, we're all in the same boat with Bobby on those.
But unless you guys have anything else, I guess we'll give the warning now. So if you're watching us live or in the future, this is going to be the point where we are going to talk about spoilers for Superman. And yeah, this movie has only officially been out for a day, so we want to be very clear. We do not want to ruin anything for you. We are going to talk about every detail about this movie, most likely from here on out, for who knows how long. So
The show's about to get real long.
if you don't want it spoiled for you, please leave and come back. We would love to have you back and check out the rest of the episode later. So yeah, from here on out, spoilers for Superman.
Yeah, I'm always curious, like if people are kind of watching us and then like, oh, I haven't seen it yet, and then they come back and they're like, okay, I got to hear this guy's spoilers and what they really think, and to see how many people agree with us on some of the stuff and don't agree on some of the stuff. Because yeah, all the spoilers. Here it comes. Here comes the wrath. Here comes the truth telling.
You guys might be more of the wrath. I'm just probably going to sit back and watch.
Well, it's like I feel like I get to explain more of my thoughts and questions. And again, I feel like I don't want to be like there's a part of me, it's like, I don't hate this film, but like when I'm sitting here talking about it, God, I'm like, God, it sounds like I hate this film. And I don't hate this film. And I think the reason I don't hate this film is literally exactly what Bobby said. I like these characters and I like the people that are portraying these characters. I just don't think this was the story. I think that's my biggest issue is I don't think this was the story. And I think they might have bitten off a little bit too much sometimes. There's just too much going on sometimes. It just seems all over the place.
So I would say one of the things that I had initially bumped up on was kind of right out of the gate. And while I like the way that they kind of present you with catching you up in where we are in this universe with the whole 3 scheme, where it's like 300 years ago, the first metahumans appeared, and then 3 decades ago, blah blah blah, all these different 3s. So it's like, okay, you're setting up this world. I'm all good with that. And then we start where we get into the fast forward a little bit, and we're going to the Fortress of Solitude,
which I liked, by the way.
The fortress is cool.
The fortress is cool.
Where I have issues with is the same thing I started to have issues with when I think me and David had talked about it during one of the trailer reviews, and it was this idea that these robots say that they have no emotion, but then the one robot's like, "Oh, he looked at me," kind of thing. It's like, wait, what? Like, what? You don't have emotion, but why would you say something that's clearly an emotional kind of response?
An emotionally based response.
Yeah, and within that, this was the start of what felt to me, and especially seeing it a second time, where there was a lot of exposition, and it was tell don't show kind of thing, and the robot is explaining, I don't know to whom, probably the audience, that this message from his parents is this thing that he likes to listen to a lot, and then he proceeds to tell you, oh, the message is cut off. Who doesn't? Why wouldn't they? Who's he telling that?
I think he's telling the new robot that it's brand new.
He didn't look at that robot. It didn't look like it when I was watching it. It wouldn't look like he was explaining it to that robot. But
I don't disagree.
It was just like it was just, it started there. I felt like, and there's other times throughout the movie where I noticed it felt like they were telling the audience this more so than it coming across as something natural that you're telling to a different character who seemed like they should already probably know this information. So it was kind of weird in that way. And it almost felt like it was something they had to do because of the fact of how they set this framing for this movie, where we're already into this lived in world. And so it's like, okay, well, we have to catch the audience up to certain things. But it was like, well, if you're catching us up to it, the fact that it's already lived in, shouldn't these other characters already know some of these things? So it started to feel like this thing where they were relying on this exposition. Maybe not necessarily an exposition dump, but it definitely felt like there was things that they were trying to get across to the audience more so than it feeling natural to the characters that were within that scene. So that was especially one of the things that I started to bump up against early on. But that's one of many. But how did you feel about that?
Well, before if you're about to move on, I was just gonna say, again, only said it once. My reaction to that at the beginning was indeed that, I mean, he has now introduced this new robot character that I don't know why it's new. There's a lot, because we're just jumping into the middle of kind of this story that's not necessarily explained. And I guess it's just kind of like, well, it doesn't have to be explained. But again, I don't know why this robot's new, but it is. I definitely read it like, yes, he's explaining things because there's a new robot here. And obviously, in terms of the storytelling, I just took it as, well, there's a new robot here, so that a robot can get explained stuff that the audience needs to get explained. That's the way I read it. But I mean, I haven't seen it a second time or paid attention to like who he was looking at or whatever. So that's how I reacted the first time I saw it.
Yeah, I was thinking he was telling number 12, the new robot.
Is that the number?
That's
yeah,
the
I
number.
remember the numbers.
But I mean, I wasn't paying attention to where the robot was looking either, because they're kind of doing a lot of stuff in that moment. But I guess I just assumed that's what he was trying to say to like, hey, so this is what he likes to do when he comes back, and he's, you know, we're gonna recuperate, we're gonna help him. That makes him feel better.
I mean, I do remember, and I think maybe you said this, Bobby, like that because we talked about this, like seeing, you know, this was all in that like extended kind of scene that was released at one point, like to the public. This isn't, I'd seen all this before I seen the movie. And I remember thinking that when I first watched this scene, like when he first tells like Superman, like, oh, well, like we don't like have emotional reactions or whatever. I'd be like, well, he's been Superman's robot for 3 years. Why would he be telling Superman this? Like, I would think Superman would know this. But then I guess, I don't know, when the new robot does have an emotional reaction, then there's part of me that's like, well, maybe this is just some weird quirk about, what is he, number 4 or something? I forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just some weird quirk about number 4. He just repeats things. And he's also just trying to act like he doesn't have emotions when in reality they kind of do. I don't know.
Yeah. It's kind of confusing because I'm like, okay, so you guys don't have emotions, but then the whole time number 4/Gary definitely is giving sass and like being snarky and sarcastic the whole time.
Very Alan Tudyk.
Especially towards Crypto. And it's very Alan Tudyk. And like on one side, I'm like, I love that. On the other side, I'm like, but do you have emotions?
Yeah.
I'm confused. Do you or do you not? Because you're giving emotional responses and sass and snarky and sarcastic, but you're not supposed to have emotions. What? That was weird.
Right.
And I say that, and those at the same time, him dissing on Crypto the whole time, those jokes worked for me. And there's a lot of other comedic stuff that I'm with Bobby does not work for me tonally.
And I can buy into maybe he was talking to 12, but all for me, and granted, it worked for you guys, so it didn't bother you at all. But for me, for that scene to have worked, all I would have needed was for 12 to acknowledge something that 4 said. Been like, oh, okay, I didn't know, you know, whatever.
Oh, that's good. I'll notate that. I'll remember that for next time or something.
Exactly.
Like,
and that would have been like, oh, okay, so yeah.
Yeah.
Showing that he is saying that to her and not kind of explaining it to the audience more so. But yeah,
and I know
that's all I had.
Oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, no, I was going to ask a question.
We are going to dissect this movie.
I mean, yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. I thought I was going to ask a question, and then I found my answer, so I'm good.
Okay.
I will say, though, the Fortress of Solitude was awesome. I liked it a lot. I like that it goes in and comes out. I like the way it looks. That was like, this is like... I will say the first opening sequences, I'm just like, oh, okay, overall, this is good. Good feels, good start. We're doing okay here.
I don't disagree. I mean, I think the Fortress looks great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Upon a second viewing, I don't know how much I want to nitpick things. And so I'll let it go at this nitpick. Because I only noticed it the second time and not the first time. When the engineer goes to Antarctica, where the Fortress of Solitude is, she comes back to Metropolis, and it's daytime. And it was daytime in Antarctica as well. And then I believe the next time we see them in Antarctica, it's Lex and the crew, and it's daytime there. And then they cut back to Metropolis, and it's nighttime there. And I'm like, which is it? Is it daytime or is it nighttime on the opposite?
I honestly had a hard time understanding how she got from Antarctica to Metropolis that quickly. Does she fly as fast as Superman?
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that as well on the second viewing. At the first viewing, I didn't think too much about it, but
I clearly enjoyed this movie more than you guys because this is stuff like, as someone, just to say, like, obviously, I think there's details like this that you guys aren't wrong. Like, I'm not trying to be like, well, it just doesn't matter, but I mean. I could do that about tons of different movies where I'll bump up against things because I'm not enjoying a movie. But then if I am, I just don't even think about details like that. And it doesn't even catch on my radar whatsoever that, oh, it was light here. And I'm not trying to downplay your criticism, Bobby, but yeah, I guess it didn't even cross my mind.
I'd be curious on the second viewing to see the day to night thing. I think for me, it was the whole fact that, like, so she's coming up to the Fortress of Solitude. Superman's leaving the Fortress of Solitude. Superman has ridiculously good eyesight
and
hearing.
Yes.
And he just kind of ignores her and keeps going.
I thought about that on second viewing. I didn't think about it on first, but and David, to your point, we've talked about this actually before, where if you see a movie, if you come out of it positive, you typically tend to overlook and dismiss a lot of the smaller things and recognize them as nitpicks. When you don't necessarily enjoy something in the way that you want to, those nitpicks become a little bit more highlighted. And I think that's what's happening for me. It's like I recognize their nitpicks because they're not that big a deal in the larger scheme of things, but they just are now standing out to me because of some of the other things that I do have larger issues with. So I recognize that they're not important, but it's just, that's why I said this would be the only one, because there's others, but it's the only one I will probably talk about.
And if you wanted to get technical, I mean, sure, it could be a time of the year where, I mean, indeed, Antarctica would have midnight sun.
Totally.
Certain times of the year versus a place wherever Metropolis is placed in the northern hemisphere would not. So, hey, it's possible.
Right. I think, yeah, that all tracks. But yeah, very quickly, I was just like, wait, he completely flew over her and didn't see her and didn't question that? Like, I immediately bumped on this. Was like, that's weird.
I also did not bump on that at all. Like, I'm just like, hey, he's preoccupied with something else.
I guess. And so I kind of just like was like, okay, I guess he's just really honed in on this situation in Metropolis. And then yeah, like she flies back and she's there moments later, and I'm thinking, so does she fly as fast as Superman? And this is a character I know absolutely nothing about. So that's the only assumption I could come up with, is that this chick can fly as fast as Superman, which is interesting because a moment ago, she didn't seem like she was flying fast at all. So that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was my big bump immediately. And then I was like, okay. And I was like, I need to let this go. We have a lot of movie to go. It's not even 10 minutes in.
One of the other things that I felt like was a sort of a step up in terms of being beyond a little bit of a nitpick and more like a plot point to me in terms of what I didn't like was we are introduced to the Hammer of Boravia, I think is the name of the country. Mm-hmm. And he's introduced as this protector or whatever, and we see him and he's on the news. Everybody's watching all this stuff happen with this character. And then he completely disappears. And there's another point in the movie where Boravia becomes important because they're invading the other country and whatnot. And I was like, why no one is wondering where that protector is? Why he's not a part of this invasion, or why he didn't come back and fight against Superman, knowing that apparently he's sort of this alien invader. And it was just kind of weird that no one ever sort of brought him up in that context again, other than Lois, because she did know that clearly this was not what it was meant to be, but they don't necessarily cover it in any other kind of form. And maybe that's okay. But I just remember thinking like, well, it's weird that this character was there once and then no one else questions why that character is never there again. If he's this protector of the country, it'd be like if Superman's the protector of the US and then he's fighting against some supervillain from a different country, but then all of a sudden Superman's nowhere near to be found again after that. And no one would, it'd be weird. People would question it. So I remember thinking that, and it was just kind of like weird to me that he would just kind of disappear off the radar and no one really talk about it much. And there was something that when I watched it the second time made a little less sense to me in that Superman was down. And if Lex's goal was to get rid of Superman, why did he pull back the hammer? They had him on the ropes. He couldn't get out of the hole. He couldn't even fly at that point. They could have went back and killed him. So why did he call him off? I don't know. It just made no sense to me.
So
once
that
I
they
watched it
could
a second
go to
time.
the
And I was just like,
fortress.
but they wouldn't need the fortress to have any evidence on him if he could have just killed him. He clearly said he was more powerful than him. He knew all of his moves. Why not just kill him? I just on the second viewing, that just kind of was like, huh. I don't have an explanation for it.
All I could think is that Lex was trying to get the people to dislike Superman. He doesn't want to just kill Superman. He wants everyone to hate Superman. He wants to tear down Superman. And so if he can accomplish that, I think that it's all about his ego. And I think his whole thing is just, I not only want to kill him, I want to just break him apart in his soul. And if everyone hates him, that's a win for me. And I think that was just the ultimate goal for him.
I'll take that.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But no, I think, it's nice. I like getting back to the Daily Planet. I think it looked awesome. It was fun to kind of see that little crew get together. I think, it's funny. Like, I think the whole Jimmy Olsen with Lex's girl, that worked for me. Like, she's a dimwit. It's cool, whatever. But for some reason, that whole situationship, I was like, I'm here for this. This is great. Like, poor Jimmy is stuck with this dimwit girl who's gorgeous, but apparently isn't that stupid because she's documenting everything and she realizes that she's documented everything. I was like, so she's not that dumb. She's just weird. Okay, cool. I don't know. I was surprised that worked for me as well as that did. I was like, this works for me. I will say the one dude, the sports guy, I was like, I don't even know why this character's here at this point. Useless. He's just kind of annoying and useless. Like, it was supposed to be, I guess, for humor reasons. And I mean, absolutely no shade to that guy, that SNL actor. I can't think of his name, but, he's fine. But I was just like, we didn't need him. He was just kind of, I don't know. His jokes weren't even that funny. And it just, I don't know, that didn't work for me. It was kind of like, it's just kind of a toss away situation. I kind of wish we got more Perry. I feel like we got screwed and a lot of cool Perry stuff got chopped on the chopping board, in my opinion. But what do I know?
How did you feel about that, David? I don't think you mentioned those two characters in terms of like when you were kind of going through some of the characters. I don't think you mentioned Jimmy or Perry.
Well, first with the Beck Bennett is the actor you're thinking of from SNL.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't think he bothered me maybe as much as it sounds like he bothered you, but I don't disagree at the same time. He's like, he clearly was a character that seemed to be inserted to just be
obnoxious,
a humor kind of situation that was whatever. Yeah. You could have done without that character. First, I'll talk about Perry White. I don't disagree. Again, thinking back to, it seems to me that there's a lot cut from this movie. I would have to imagine that there was more Perry White at one point, and he probably just had stuff that was cut from the film. Maybe we're wrong, but it's just how it seems to me.
There's even almost like a joke sequence where he's trying to get Jimmy to stop calling him Chief and just call him Perry. So it happens one time at the beginning of the movie, and then it happens later towards the end. But it's not like it happens enough for that joke to actually pay off. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Again, was there a scene, another one somewhere in the middle that got chopped? Right. Anyway, sorry, continue.
Now, Jimmy Olsen.
He's an older Jimmy Olsen.
I'm trying to think of how to put this. I like you mentioned like his relationship with Lex's girlfriend.
I think
that worked for me too. It's fine.
As
like
weird as it is.
As weird as it is, but I think the thing that doesn't work for me, because I think there's something like just not explained well, is like they clearly are trying to like set you up earlier in the film that he's like a ladies' man. Like there's these two women on the other side of the newsroom that are like looking over at him and like giving him the eye and like, oh my God. And I remember watching that scene going, what the F is happening here? This is
Jimmy
weird. And then like it turns out like, I mean, there's like one line from Lois at one point in the film where she's like, how do you do it? But I feel like there's still not enough there to like kind of pay off like why is like nothing against the actor, like I'm not trying to say he's unattractive or anything, but just the character, there's nothing about the character in this movie that made me go, oh, I can see why women want this guy. Like I don't know, and it just I was like that did not work.
Yeah, because like even Lois is like, he's like, I don't get it, like you got this hot chick on the like going for you. Like she says it. She's like, you got this beautiful woman. What is happening over there? And I'm like, are they trying to insinuate? Trying to put this delicately. Are they trying to insinuate a certain member that Jimmy has that is like he's well endowed or something, and he's a ladies' man? And there's word of mouth happening. If that's what they were going for, they missed the mark completely.
No. Totally.
There's something, again, it's another like joke that I think James was trying to go for, and it just doesn't pay off because they edited a crap ton out.
Yeah. I had the same feelings as you two did in terms of Jimmy Olsen. I was okay. Not okay. I was really on board with his portrayal, the actor that portrays him, and the look and everything. It was just that that character decision, which is completely different than the comic book version in any sort of form I've ever seen. And so it was a choice being made there to make him this kind of ladies' man, but it just felt like he did it just to be different in a way. James Gunn, I'm saying, is like, oh, well, let's just make this iteration of Jimmy Olsen a ladies' man just because it makes it different and it can make it more unexpected. And it's like, I would be on board with that and okay with it if it was set up in a different kind of way. Because like you said, David, where there's these two girls over there looking at him and he's like, sees it, he's almost completely oblivious to the fact that they're attracted to him. And it's kind of this weird thing because they do it not just there, but obviously they do it again. And granted, I would give some leeway to the fact that they did it again when he's looking for his girlfriend, Lex's girlfriend, Eve, I think. And so he's walking the streets and there's women of the night. And so, of course, they're going to, solicit anyone that comes by. So you could say that in that sense, it wasn't necessarily playing up to this ladies' man idea. It's just that they would talk to any guy that was around them. But it only adds to that because of where they set that up before with the girls in the newsroom. And to me, it's like, he better come out and be like, he has superpowers where he has these super pheromones that affect women and not all women or something, because clearly it doesn't work on Lois Lane. But it's like, that's what it seems like. Like he's got some sort of superpower when it comes to women, because it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, because Lois says, I forgot what exactly she said, but she basically said something about like Eve being really beautiful. And she's like, you have this beautiful girl who's fawning over you. And he's like, beautiful? Like he's almost oblivious the fact that she's pretty. I'm like,
yeah. That's what caught me. It's like,
Jimmy,
I think she says like she's hot and smart, or beautiful and smart, or something like that.
Right, because she took the photo. That's right. Yeah.
He catches on the fact that she's hot or beautiful more so than smart, which you would think would be the thing he'd stump on, because clearly she's attractive. So it was like, what are we doing? I don't know.
Yeah, again, I think things hit the cutting room floor that could have been, could have paid off a little bit more on that.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'll say the next scene, and this is the one that I loved. I loved this next scene between Clark and Lois in Lois's apartment, I think it seems like. And she interviews Superman in her apartment. And I thought that the writing of that scene, the pacing of that scene, what you're getting from both of the actors in that scene for their characters, oh, chef's kiss. It was wonderful. I was like, oh my God, is this the kind of dialogue and like back and forth and like character interactions we're gonna get? Like we're gonna get this like this level of dialogue for us. Like I was deep into that scene. I was like, this scene is awesome. Loved it start to finish. I thought it was beautiful, and I'm disappointed that was all we got. In my opinion,
I agree. I really thought that was one of the shiny moments where he just kind of let this scene play out and breathe, and these became two real people in this universe to me, to where it really grounded them. And you see that their relationship, and at that point they had been dating, I guess, for 3 months, back to that 3 scheme kind of thing. And so it was like, okay, yeah, you could see where there would be these fresh bumps that they haven't hit before. And this is something that they're hitting and trying to deal with in a real way, and it plays out in such a real fashion that you're kind of like, ooh, I want more of this. But and sadly we get less of that, and that goes back to kind of that pacing thing where everything else becomes very much quick, but not too much of the sitting down. There are a couple more times where we settle into something, and again, they pay off. And this is where James Gunn can shine, because he's shown time and time again, he gets characters and gets emotional beats between characters. So I think that that's all good stuff. And I wouldn't have mind a little bit more of that.
I agree.
I agree. Good scene. I mean, nothing else to add about it. It's good, but I mean, if anything, considering, again, I would call it relatively short, the film is, to how I think it needed to be. It was like, this is a good scene, but it's like, it's taking up a chunk of time where I wish that clearly we're not going to have enough time to have more scenes like this, which is unfortunate.
What did the two of you think of the portrayal and what we got of Ma and Pa Kent?
David, I'll let you go ahead. I feel like I've been talking a lot.
So it's funny, and I mean, you've probably heard this story, Bobby, right? I mean, you're a Howard Stern fan. Have you heard this?
I don't know that I have.
Oh, okay. Well, so it turns out I had heard before seeing this movie that apparently James Gunn is a Howard Stern fan, and he really wanted to have the actors speak in what, like an authentic Kansas accent. And Richard Christie's parents, if you know anything about Howard Stern, his parents will, recordings of them and such will appear on the show a lot, and they definitely they have an accent. And I guess he even got Richard Christie to get his parents to like call and leave voicemails for James Gunn that then he was able to share with the actors, and they like studied them. And I've heard interviews now with the actors, or the actress, I forget her name, for example. I mean, apparently she listened to the voicemails she got a lot to kind of study this like Kansas accent. And I had known about this before seeing the movie. So when we get the first scene, when it's his mom speaking first, I think over the phone. And then finally, especially when his dad first talks, I almost like laughed out loud, because I'm like, oh my God, it sounds just like Richard Christie's father. Exactly like him. Now, the actor playing Pa Kent gets some more dialogue later in the movie, and it's not like it's in total like impersonation. I mean, he, but yeah, like it's a different take on the parents. I honestly don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with, we're not going down the road of making Ma and Pa Kent like these almost like heroic characters on their own, which they are great people, right? They're great parents that, adopted a child from another planet and took him in and raised him to be a good kid. I mean, they are great parents in that way, and they're portrayed that way here too. but I think in past iterations, they've also been portrayed in a, I don't know, maybe an unrealistic sense. And I don't know, their portrayal here worked for me.
No, I was actually going to touch on this. I think they're the most authentic thing in this film, honestly. I think, and I'm not trying to downgrade anybody else, but I think they're the most real portrayal I've ever seen of Martha and I don't even know, John maybe. I can't think of
Just Pa Kent.
Pa Kent.
Yeah, I mean, it's Jonathan.
So,
That's
like, I feel like there's two things that are happening in the iterations of his parents. One is that they're held up like they're so amazing that they, they've done this thing and like they're so awesome and like what wonderful humans they are. And I think they are kind of on a pedestal in that way in a lot of iterations. The other thing is I think that they are also portrayed as, they seem almost very polished, not like just your average person.
Average rural American.
Average, literally middle American that's running a farm. And I'm not saying anything negative about that at all. I'm just saying like these felt like just regular people. They didn't seem like they were, I don't know. Like I feel like in a lot of movies, they always feel very polished is the best word I could go with. They always seemed like they were not like just regular people. They always kind of in other movies felt like they were, I don't know, just like maybe that they used to be city folk that then moved to the country or something. I don't know. It's like the feeling always just felt like they didn't quite belong and fit in what is happening of that situation. These two felt like that. I think that they really feel like these are just two people working their farm in Kansas and this spaceship crashed and they raised a good kid who turned out to be a great man. And it feels like that. And I loved that. I could have had more Kansas. Let me tell you, I was here for that. That worked for me.
Bobby, what did you think of it?
I'm of two minds of it, honestly. The first scene didn't work for me, where they're on the phone. It almost felt like a caricature of Midwestern people, and that they were like just so out of touch that they don't know how to use a cell phone without yelling, and the conversation, like as if she doesn't know that he can hear his father on the other end without having to yell it back to him. It felt like it was like somebody making fun of like the idea that these are rural people, so they must be slow in a way. But so I bumped up against their initial introduction to us. But then once we get to the farm and we have more scenes with them, I was enjoying it. I really thought everything was working at that point in terms of the emotional resonance that they had with Clark, and also just the idea of them being able to really care about this person that they've raised since he was a baby and crash landed, and that you can see how much they care, especially Pa. And so it settled in for me, I guess, in terms of the way that these characters were being done in a different way, but still in a familiar way in terms of how much they care about this young baby that they had to care for that was crash landed onto this planet. So I felt like by the end, everything was working for me, but that initial introduction, I just wasn't really on board at first. And so I was a little scared after that, not knowing exactly how that would go. And then once we got to the farm, I was like, okay, I'm good now.
And I get what you're saying. I remember somewhat thinking the first thing, like when they were very first introduced, and it's mainly, it's her talking on the phone and being like, I was expecting this again, given the story I'd heard about the Richard Christie thing. But at the same time, it almost seemed a little heavier in the realm of like like a caricature of like a Midwestern, couple than maybe I was expecting. But overall, it worked for me. But I can understand that reaction at first for sure.
It's funny that you guys read that as more. I mean, I will admit they do have accents for sure. Obviously, it's funny that you read that as a caricature of them from the Midwest as rural, traditional Americans. I read it more as they're of a certain generation. They're older parents. They like I read it as this is an older generation parent parenting what is probably not traditional age gapped child to them. Like the way that they handled the technology. Like I read that more of not this is where you're from, but this is showing your age. And that's kind of how I read that scene. So it's funny that you guys went one way and I went a completely different way.
I mean, I don't think I went a completely different way than you, but I mean, no. I could recognize how like it would come across that way to someone at first. But overall, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ma and Pa Kent, thumbs up.
How about the Ma and Pa Krypton of it all?
I'll say I kind of dig Bradley Cooper as I never can say it right. Jor-El. I dug that. I don't know who that actress was that is playing the mom. And she seems much young. She seems much young.
Things, but I forget her name.
She's much younger than Jor-El. In my opinion. She's an interesting choice.
Maybe that's only one of many wives he has.
Apparently. So yeah, I like that they kind of did, native Kryptonian tongue. I thought that was kind of a cool choice. And it's interesting. Like as soon as like that one scene the first scene plays, and it's like, oh, and then the message gets lost.
It's like damage.
I was like, well, this is obviously going to come back to bite him in the ass. I was like, clearly, like it was a little too on the nose. And I was like, they're going to say something stupid about like how he's a better life form than humans. And I pretty quickly made that assumption. And obviously that paid off. But at the same time, it was pretty obvious that's what was going. I mean, maybe not to the whole, like, many wives portion of it all, but, the fact that basically Kryptonians are like, these should be pretty easy people for you to rule over. I was like, that sounds pretty right.
For my part, I think I was, not even think. I was on board with it just because this was different. I know, or at least have heard, that there's iterations within the comics where that's been a story where Jor-El wasn't on the side of humanity and Earth and was more in line with someone more like Zod, I guess you would say. And so I was like, okay, I mean, this is a different universe, a different world. Let's try something different with the mythology and lore. It's not so sacred that it hasn't been tried before, at least in the comics.
Right.
Maybe it was an Elseworld stories or something else. I don't know, but it's an interesting take, and let's see where it goes and plays into the future of this universe, because I would imagine at some point we would possibly see a Zod, and I could see where anyone else outside of Superman and Supergirl would feel like they need to be protectors of Earth, and anyone else from Krypton would be like how Zod was for the most part in Man of Steel, and being like, no, we need to subjugate this world and take it over and make it new Krypton. And so I could see like that conflict coming into play and being even more of an interesting point, a jumping off point, knowing that this is what his parents wanted for him to go and take over and have many women to help repopulate this planet and make it a Krypton newer version. So I thought it was interesting, and I'm interested to see where they go with it and expound upon that idea.
I would agree. I don't have a problem with like the decision to portray his parents in this way.
Yeah.
I think what I bump heavily against was the story, I guess, convincing me, other than just like a quick explanation, that it was like a legitimate message that Lex was sharing.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean,
I would agree with that.
Bobby, you've seen the film twice, and Michelle, maybe you caught something I didn't. But like, especially, I know Mr. Terrific says something to Superman at one point, basically like as a way to like confirm, yes, it is legitimate. And I forget exactly what he says to him, but even when he said it, I remember being like, but that's not enough for me as an audience member to go, oh, okay, I understand now. Like, it just seemed too easy. And it didn't, like, especially given the context of this movie in our current real life like world that we live in.
Yeah.
It was hard not, I mean, the immediate reaction when, you know, suddenly on the news, Lex is there sharing like, hey, we figured out this recording and this is what it shares. I mean, my immediate reaction was like, oh, this is fake. Like,
yeah,
like
fake interstellar news.
Like,
yeah.
And then just to have a quick line from Mr. Terrific as a way to confirm that it's real. I don't know. Just the way the movie was like trying to get me as an audience member to buy into, oh no, it's legitimate, like never worked. Even though I get that it is, that's fine. And I know in a way I'm almost treating this like it's a real world scenario. It's not, but I as an audience member was like, but is it?
I agree. It was like the whole approach of it, the way Lex approached it, the way he delivers it, like it. I agree. It was hard to buy that it wasn't doctored. That was hard to swallow.
I mean, it's
like,
fine
if doing the greatest job of convincing me.
Yeah, it's fine if you're gonna go with this story route where no, it's legitimate, but there was nothing about the story that made it clear enough that it was legitimate.
Yeah.
You're right. And I would be interested to see if maybe in the end that it has been doctored in some sort of way that has not come to light yet. I think when I bought it the first time, it wasn't when Mr. Terrific said it, although I started to really heavily buy it. But it was, I think, when Lex I think I forget who he was talking to. He might have been talking to the engineer, or maybe even talking to someone else, maybe the leader of the Boravia or something. Mm-hmm. But he said something to the effect of, I went there looking for something to kind of incriminate him, and little did I know that it would come from his own parents or something like that. And he didn't say it in a way that he like, oh, I like he didn't need to have said that in a way that would have suggested that he was lying to the person he was talking to. It sounded like, oh yeah, he went there looking for some dirt, but he found dirt and that he wasn't even looking for. And so
the best level of pay dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like, okay, that solidified it for me. Again, it could still be that, well, it's Lex and he's just lying and whatever. They still did something, and just that will be revealed later down the line. But within the context of the movie, once he said it and said it in that way, that it for me, I was like, okay, I'm buying into this. But it does kind of leave me with other questions, which I assume we might get answers to sooner rather than later. And that if this is the case, and again, I don't know how they're necessarily treating things, but in typical fashion, Supergirl or Kara is older than Clark. She just got to Earth later because of the universe and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But she would have been able to know what their intentions would have been in terms of what they would have wanted to do for Earth. And so I would be curious as to hear her take and what she knows, in which, like I said, we'll get sooner rather than later because her movie is coming out next year. So if it was just something that Lex doctored up, I would hope that they would go into that a little bit in terms of the next movie. And if not there, if there is another Superman sequel, maybe we could get something in terms of how we got from Man of Steel, where that first part of that movie, we're on Krypton and we're seeing everything that Jor-El is doing. And Bradley Cooper is a young enough guy that I could see them doing something with him in a future movie and a longer drawn out sequence on Krypton and doing some more stuff there. So
Right.
I feel like we'll get more to that story one way
Yeah.
or the other, whether that message was real or whether it was doctored.
Yeah, given how heavily James Gunn, I think, lays into the father-son dynamic in all of his films so far,
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I would not be shocked if we get some more of that.
So, out of curiosity, how did you feel about like? Okay, so yeah, like Lex lets go a distraction creature that eventually expands into this huge creature, right?
Kaiju.
Yeah, so there's that. And then later on, there's the big floating eye orb thing that, the Justice
Gang.
gang is fighting off, behind his apartment or something, or her apartment. I don't know whose apartment it was. So I mean, like, that's happening, and it's just like, so I guess, is this every day in Metropolis? Like, there's just something random that happens like every other day in Metropolis, some weird creature that shows up, and then everybody's got to deal with it. And like, this is just the norm. This is just the average day. Like, oh, okay, our buildings are just always crumbling because we always have these weird creatures constantly destroying us for no reason whatsoever. I was like, this is kind of an interesting. This is interesting. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I read it. I mean, especially with the kind of setup that metahumans have been around for 300 years.
Right.
And it does seem to be a world that we're jumping into where this kind of stuff is not completely out of the norm. Like at this point, like, yeah, I guess.
I read it that way too, just because, especially when you see certain scenes, granted, this happens in every movie, especially comic book movies, where if there's some sort of world endangering event in real life, most people would try and get away as quick as possible. But and I'm sure there's going to be a subsection of people who would try to get away. There's going to be those people who would stand and watch, and there's a lot of that in this. There's even people filming on their phones, different things. So to me, that does lead to the idea that this kind of thing happens quite a bit. And there's sometimes where they maybe have to leave parts of the city, and other times they just kind of like, hey, we know we have a superhero. Let's see him come in and take care of this, because as the opening kind of setups tells us, Superman never lost before, and only within this time that they see him within this fight with the Hammer did he actually lose a fight. So they're probably pretty used to him coming in and handling whatever comes through. And he even kind of said, well, this eyeball thing, the Justice Gang has it, and I don't really need to get involved with that. I was looking for crypto, so I think I don't have to really involve myself in this, especially when there are other heroes around in Metropolis besides himself.
So speaking of looking for crypto, what do we think about Lex having a pocket universe?
Again, I kind of took it as there's been so much that's happened within so long, and we're jumping right into it, that it's kind of like you either have to buy it and go along for that ride, or you will question it, and then you're going to start to question a whole bunch of other things, because you really kind of just have to say, well, this is that aspect of what I remember people saying from the different reviews and tweets that I was reading, when they were saying this was like an animated cartoon come to life or a comic book come to life, and there's these aspects that happen within these comic books or animated shows that have these big kind of like weird things, and that's the universe that we're inhabiting in James Gunn's DCU. And so I'm kind of like, all right, I mean, if this was any other kind of thing, I'd question the fact that we're here already. But based on the way it's set up and the given amount of time that we have, I'm just kind of like, Pocket Universe. All right, okay, so let's go with it. Let's see where it goes.
Before we get to what I think is David's favorite needle drop scene for this film, I'm assuming, by the way, I don't know.
Okay.
What do we think about that scene where Lex goes in once he's captured Superman? I say captured, Superman really handed himself over, but once he has Superman in the box. He's trying to get him to talk, and he brings that poor street vendor in there. What do we think about Lex doing that? Like, I'll be honest, like that whole scene, I was like, I mean, Lex is a supervillain. He is a super messed up dude, but like, I don't know. I guess I just don't. I was like, wow. I guess I didn't think Lex had that in him.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll be honest.
I think it's nice to see a Lex that is just a really, really bad guy. I mean, we got the Gene Hackman Lex in the Christopher Reeve films, which in a lot of ways is almost likable.
Almost.
And and that's fine, but I like that. I mean, again, it's clear that James Gunn is changing things up, and it's another thing that he lays into that's not uncommon in the comics, that Lex is extremely ruthless. Not likable, ruthless.
Yeah, but I don't think Lex was that one-on-one violent though. I think I feel like I mean, I haven't read a lot of recent Superman comics, but I feel like Lex wasn't very him putting the violence out. I feel like he always had another person doing the violent thing. Like he wasn't the one holding the gun. Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean, and I would say sorta, because I remember a scene from the original Superman, and it may have been the Donner cut, I don't recall, that in the subway, when the cops are following Otis, there is a train that's coming, and Lex pushes a button that pushes the wall out so that the guy ends up falling into the tracks. So he's killed people in that movie.
Right.
And then Kevin Spacey, I believe, I forget what he did, but he definitely killed someone.
I haven't watched that one in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Holy cow.
And then from the Man of Steel, all of a sudden, Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah.
Eisenberg? Yeah. He killed the people in the courtroom with that bomb. What was it, her name? From Incredibles. I can't think of her name all of a sudden. But she was the judge. And when they're like, she had her tea, or was it maybe? And then he sets off that bomb, and then everybody gets killed except for Superman, because obviously for obvious reasons. But I know what you're saying, but he's been pretty ruthless in any iteration I've seen.
I think what it is I think for me it's that Lex will carry out the violent act, but he's not holding the blade to your throat.
Yeah, no, I get. Do
you know what I'm saying?
Oh, totally get what you're saying.
Like,
but
he set up a bomb that he remotely detonated. He hit a button that shoved the dude. Like, for me, I think it's more just like, this is the first time I think I've really watched Lex hold the weapon. And I think that was like, I was like, Jesus, damn. And then for him to be so cavalier about it and joking about it, I was like, wow, Lex, you are a bastard.
It's a different Lex.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not mad at it. I just was like, wow, he's like, I don't know. For me, it just felt like a different level. That was all.
Right.
Well, and you didn't answer your own question in regards to the what was it, crypto? No. We were talking about it prior to this.
I can't remember.
What was it? I forget what you asked us, but you asked us something.
The Pocket Universe?
How do we feel? Yeah, the Pocket Universe.
So, yeah, I don't know. I guess I was kind of like, wow, Lex, and Lex has always been rich. And, you know, in modern versions, Lex has always got technology, right? Because that's where money is nowadays. But I think it was just kind of like, I was like, wow. So Lex has this whole secret little pocket universe and like absolutely nobody's questioning it. Now, on one side, I think it's very real world in that way right now. On the other side, I was like, wow, absolutely nobody's ever questioned. Like Lex just develops all this crap and like whatever. But I'm like, but now living in our modern times, yeah, it's kind of viable now. So totally, I totally buy it in a way now that I probably wouldn't have 10 years ago. So yeah, I don't know. I was just kind of curious what your guys' take was on it. And then Bobby said something about like, you know, it's basically like the comic coming up. I'm like, yeah, no, that makes more sense. That adds the depth to it. Yeah.
It's funny because like I bumped up less against the idea of a pocket universe more than I did the fact that there's so many Superman haters that he has on his team of people helping him out.
It's like, how did you find so many people that hate Superman this much? Like,
I know. It's funny you say this. The whole time I was watching, I'm like, man, Lex has a crap ton of henchmen that really are super on board.
Henchmen that don't they're not your stereotypical henchmen. Like, if anything,
smart.
They seem like decent people, right? Like, they seem like somewhat likable people that I'm like, but they really are like, yes, Lex, let's kill Superman.
I mean, maybe not the ones that were picking up the pencils and stuff, but overall, most of them seem fairly intelligent and like pretty like with the goal. Like, there's one gentleman that seemed pretty level-headed most of the time. Like at one point, he's like, "Okay, guys, safety first. Make sure you're following your steps, okay?" Like it's very like organized. And I'm like, Jesus H, you people. I'm like, what did Superman do? Accidentally kill your pet ant? What the hell happened? Like, I don't understand why you'd be so pissed. I'm glad that you said that, Bob, because the whole time I was thinking he has a lot of henchmen. And then especially the ones that wind up in the metal suits. What were those called? Vultures?
Raptors.
So he's got these raptors, and I'm thinking, Jesus H, there's a lot of people that are hating on Superman before the whole, his parents are crazy kind of thing. I'm like, Jesus, where did you find so many people? Although it was very satisfying watching Mr. Terrific team up with Lois Lane. That was really enjoyable. I'm just saying.
It was the most James Gunn scene of the entire movie.
James Gunn scene,
and it worked for me. I enjoyed it. I mean, as soon as their little ship is coming down, and you get a shot of like a couple of the people sitting at a bench or something, and at this point the needle drop sounds like it's coming through like a radio they're listening to, and it's playing that Noah and the Whale song, which I hadn't heard in a very long time, but I've heard many times.
Long time.
And as soon as I heard that, I'm like, oh, well, this is going to be interesting. This is definitely a James Gunn scene coming, because that's an interesting song to put on right now.
Yeah. And
it for me, it did not disappoint. I enjoyed it. But I also, as I said earlier, I absolutely loved Mr. Terrific in this movie. Yeah, like, I don't know what the future plans for him are, and I know there's rumors of a spin-off kind of show for him, and hopefully I would prefer a spin-off show as long as it's high quality, which I would assume it is. Peacemaker was fantastic.
Yeah, Peacemaker level. I think that would be awesome.
If it's Peacemaker level, that would be, man. That might be the most excited I am about a future DC project right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I enjoyed that scene.
No, it was very enjoyable for sure.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. That was the one that I would say I did enjoy, and with the needle drop and everything. And it's funny, when I watched it, as I was watching it, the thing that came to mind was the scene, and there's many examples of it, but I guess the most recent one that came to mind to me was the Guardians 3, when they're on the ship and they're going through that hallway when it's sort of this wonder, and they're going through there, and it's playing Beastie Boys, and I was like, it kind of reminds me of that. And so as soon as this scene was happening, I was like, oh, we're in for a treat, and it didn't disappoint at all.
Right. Yeah. Agreed.
I know this is going long.
I know we'll probably have to wrap it up here in a little bit.
I know. Yeah, I think it's cool that we met the other metahuman, and I can't think of his name. The one that can do that can create morph into material into elements.
Well, they call him Element Man, but
Okay.
in the comics, he's Metamorpho.
Metamorpho.
Yeah. Okay. No, I thought that was kind of cool. Getting to meet another one, and like he was a dad, and then like there was, I mean, like on one side, part of me is like the whole baby thing is kind of like. Not that the baby thing's silly. Like, I get why Luthor had his baby, obviously. I think the whole, like, tossing the baby around while they're in the pocket universe and Superman's trying to keep his little head over, I'm going to say water, but the stream of death.
Proton, anti-proton,
whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit ridiculous. This is getting a little too silly for my taste. Like, and I feel like that scene kind of went long. But overall, like, I like that, you know, the way that they got out of the pocket universe, I thought was good as a whole, like, you know, following Mr. Terrific's balls, orbs, excuse me.
Right.
T-Spears.
His T-Spears.
That's what he would say.
T-Spears. You know, obviously Crypto trying to eat them.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cute when they got out of there. Let's see. What else kind of works?
Speaking of Crypto, I like, you know, Crypto being in this movie is totally fine, but I'm also kind of happy that in the end it's clear that like this is not, I think, going to be a continued like Superman and Crypto pairing. Like I'm pleased with that choice. Like I would be happier to, as we can, if we get another Superman movie, that it's not going to be like him and Crypto again.
Yeah, like I enjoyed Crypto. I would say maybe he got used slightly, maybe a little too much, maybe a little bit, but not, I wouldn't say overly used. I think overall, me and Crypto were good. He's adorably annoying. But yeah, no, the final end scene that we got, you know, that was very good. I like that it's Kara's. I like that he's Kara's. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's refreshing because I remember I used to watch the animated cartoon series of Crypto, and no, it's refreshing that he's Kara's. Like I was like, I'm down with this. This is nice. This will be nice.
I totally could have seen if they were doing this, which is obviously that they're not doing the Marvel thing, but it would have been pretty much on par if at the end of this movie, after everything, it would have said Crypto will return in Supergirl, because you got to figure he's gonna show up there again. So it's like, but I was good with the amount of Crypto and the different things that he was done. It felt right and natural to what we were getting in terms of having the character in there, and I was on board from the beginning. I know a lot of people had reservations of having this Crypto character that seemed to work in comics and animated form, to be bringing him to live action. There was a lot of hesitation, which is understandable, but I was like, oh man, this is cool that they're going to do something that has so far only ever been done and portrayed in the comics and in animated form. So I was on board and happy with the way it was executed.
And I like the choice to make Crypto completely disobedient and just a terror, because it gives Crypto depth that, you know, in the comics and in the cartoons, like he was always the perfect dog, you know, like he was like better than Lassie, you know, and that's kind of boring in a way, you know, especially when you're already paired up with Superman. Superman's great and in a sense kind of perfect, and he's a, you know, good guy, and he obeys laws, and he believes in the right and wrong and all, you know. And Crypto, I think, would have fallen completely flat if it was more true to the way Crypto has always been portrayed. I think making him this kind of hell on wheels dog with superpowers was a very smart choice. It made him interesting and not just a boring, oh, I got my dog as my sidekick kind of thing.
Right.
Oh, it was a good choice. I wholeheartedly agree. All right, so David was saying we should wrap it up, but we can't not talk about who actually is, what is it, the Hammer of Belgrave or Belgrave Hammer or whatever it's called.
Barabia, I think.
Barabia.
Talking about Ultraman.
Ultraman.
Is that what he's called?
Yeah.
Ultraman?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. You see how much Superman I know. My Superman lore is very small. Sorry.
So what did you
yeah.
think, Michelle?
I mean, it's funny because it makes so much sense when you think about it, but it's funny that I didn't piece it together. But based on the whole scene with them going to Fortress, but I was kind of like, when it happened, I was kind of like, oh, okay. I don't know. I don't know. I was kind of whatever about it in a way. Do you know what I mean?
I was curious I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder what the reaction is for people who don't know who Ultraman is, like watching this. Like, oh, are they going to be like, oh, they made it, it's like a clone of Superman?
That's
or
kind of how I feel about
right,
it. I'm kind of like, no, whatever about it. I don't care.
Go ahead, Bobby.
I was going to sort of, I don't know if I was going to expound upon what you were saying, but it's almost a typical thing in that it's been done before many times in early Marvel, where you had the hero and you had the antithesis of that hero, where you had Iron Man and then you had Warmonger and then you have Ant-Man, but then you had I forget Corey Stoll's character, but it was like the opposite version of that character, and so they sort of did that again with this, even though it makes sense because of course who else would be on that level to be able to be effective against Superman other than someone that's his clone. But it did sort of have that kind of remnants of those ideas where you're just fighting a different version of the hero, and so it was kind of
yeah. Who's the hardest person to beat? Oh, the worst version of yourself.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was kind of like, okay. Like honestly, like that reveal could have been just absolutely anybody else. I'd probably been like, oh, okay, that's an interesting character. This was like, it fell flat for me. Again, I am not the biggest comic person. Yeah, I don't have that much Superman comic knowledge. I mean, a little bit, but it's very old, my Superman comic knowledge. And I don't know, for me, that just kind of fell flat. It's kind of like, oh, okay.
Because, it feels to me like something that would indeed work better for people who know who Ultraman is. And I think in the context of the movie works better, like kind of knowing what's going to happen there versus like your situation, Michelle. And that's what I kind of assumed, that more people than not would fall in the camp of like, oh, it's him fighting himself. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised.
There's a part of me that was kind of thinking, I'm like, I wonder if it's, and now I can't think, Nathan Fillion's Green Lantern was a Guy. Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was like, it'd be interesting if this turned out to be Guy, like in a weird way. You know what I mean? Like Guy actually has like major superpowers and it's not just your Green Lantern power, but like he's like actually, I was like, that would have been interesting. Like I was thinking that leading up to it, kind of like, it'd be really cool if it wound up actually being like him. Like it's a weird spin, like how you thought we were on okay terms. We are not, my friend, and I love kicking your ass.
Right.
So yeah, no, when it came out that it was just him, I was like, oh, okay.
It's one of the things I did think that they maybe dropped the ball on, and after watching it a second time, maybe I could be convinced that they did not drop the ball. But in the comics, Ultraman is an alternate universe version of Superman, an evil version.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's not mindless. He's like just pretty much like Superman, but just evil. And so I felt like, oh, well, we don't get to see that because in that alternate universe, Ultraman is the leader of this sort of anti-Justice League group called the Crime Syndicate, which consists of evil versions, of these other characters that we know, like Batman and Wonder Woman and Green Lantern, Flash, all those guys.
Yeah, I've actually read those.
So it's like, oh, well, now we don't get to see that because they've changed that. And then upon a second viewing, I thought, well, there's a way that they could still do that. And that he gets sucked into a black hole, and technically that black hole could take him to a different Earth, and he could be on an Earth that moves slower or something, and he can find intelligence somehow and through his years of a clone and come back with that crime syndicate from some other alternate universe that he got to through this black hole. But who knows? He could have just been a one-off, but
I would bet he's a one-off, and you're not going to see that. But
could be.
You're totally right. It's totally doable.
No, my first thought was
just even another. I mean, we've already introduced pocket universes and everything. It's totally possible to still just have another iteration of Superman, like because in this case, he's being treated like, well, he cloned Superman and kind of created this guy,
right.
But you could still end up with like the version that like you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they might go that way. I doubt it. But I will say my first thought was, well, all you did was throw him into a black hole. Black holes don't mean crap in comic. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, that's just a regular Tuesday. You know? Like, it just is like, that's what, you know what I mean? Like, he didn't kill him. He went into a black hole.
Right.
That'll come back to bite you in the butt in about 60 days. You know what I mean? Like, it just seems so very like, meh, whatever. So I'm sure maybe it will come back to bite him in the butt later. Who knows? But
you don't see a character die, then you can't assume that they're dead.
Exactly.
And even when they die, you can't assume that they stay dead. So
exactly.
It is as a comic book universe.
Right.
I will say, though, the whole scene with the Daily Planet pulling together to get the whole story on Lex and watching Lois. Again, this is by far my favorite. I'll be honest, Lois Lane is not one of my favorite characters. Like, I don't hate her, but I've always been very whatever on Lois Lane. This iteration of Lois Lane, this representation that Rachel did, beautiful. It is hands down just delightful to watch, to see her interact with her, what she does in her mind, what she does with her coworkers, what she does as a reporter, how she is with Clark. I loved it. I was like, this is what I want. This is how I want the female characters. Give me more of this. Like, yes, it was so good.
And I would say too, I mean, not only are we almost certainly going to get a lot more the Rachel Brosnahan version of Lois Lane in this universe, but that version of Lois Lane you're describing, I definitely would just read more, especially of newer Superman comics. So you get a lot of that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because she's always been kind of meh, in my opinion. She's always been a meh character.
I don't disagree, but they have changed her quite a bit and made her more relevant and more agency in later years.
And you see that a little bit honestly, in that Lois and Superman show when she and Clark have the kids and they're in Kansas, and you see that come out in her in that. I saw a few up, a little bit of season 1, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is kind of an enjoyable Lois. I kind of like this. This is kind of feisty, and she's. I don't know. I was kind of enjoying 100%. That. So, if that's the way Lois has developed over the years, thank God.
Yeah. Honestly, I would. Another rumor David touched on that there might be a couple spinoffs, and one of them was mentioned as Mr. Terrific, and then another one that had been mentioned, who knows how true either are, but they were saying Jimmy Olsen. I would personally say no to Jimmy Olsen and yes to a Lois Lane, because it's Rachel Brosnahan. She knows she had a hit TV series for how many seasons. Yeah. So she's very familiar with the TV world.
She knows how to commit to a character.
Yeah. And you could introduce her within other stories of other heroes and being a reporter and going on different things and seeing different heroes or different stories and stuff like that. So to me, that seems like a no-brainer that you would do that and be able to have her as a gateway to other heroes and other stuff.
Right.
But anyways, I loved watching that whole scene come together as she's figuring it out with Jimmy and the photos and like just her being a spectacular reporter. I thought that was just so good. I was like, oh, this makes my soul feel better. I was like, oh, I like this.
Well, we should wrap up soon, but I have a feeling we might all have like last bits we want to touch on. And Bobby, it sounds like you might want to jump on that.
Yeah. One other thing that I would say that I did sort of question and kind of was curious as to how you guys felt about it was that we talked about it a little bit earlier, where the message comes out and we see that he was not sent here to be the beacon of hope for the world, but to be its conqueror. Um, did you have an issue in terms of how people turned on him and the way that whole thing kind of played out?
Like how quickly everyone just immediately turns on him.
Yeah.
I guess I have an issue with it in the same respect that I did before. Like, things are very glossed over in the movie like this, where it's like Lex is saying that this is real and everyone just so quickly buys it. And not only did I not, as an audience member, buy it immediately, but, you know, the fact that everybody just goes, yes, I saw that on TV and Lex said it, so it's real. And they're just immediately turn on him. I also was like, this is weird to me. And so I bumped against that.
I bumped against it too. I agree. I was like, I don't buy this. And I don't think that many people would immediately buy it. I think there are some people that would. I'm not saying that in that large crowd that he's outside with, that there wouldn't be a few people that would be that way. But then I feel like there'd be a solid amount of other people going like, wait, let's hear his side of this. This came out of Lex, guys. Like, let's come on, grain of salt here. I feel like other people would be quick to be like, hold on. Wait a second. What? Huh?
Not even so much that it's like that they're buying that it's a real message, just that, well, so what? Like, at the same time, like, Superman has done nothing but, you know, prove that he's a good person so far. Like, you know, let's hear his side of the story or something.
Yeah, nothing but good things have happened since he showed up. So, wait, what? We're supposed to just believe that Lex found this message and this is totally legit?
Or that it's legit, but that Superman actually is
that's what I mean.
Is doing that. Like,
Like, that's what I mean. Like, that they're just going to be like, wait a second. That just immediately erases all the amazing good things he's done and has literally gone into death's door to, like, save us and do things. Like, it just doesn't pan out. I just didn't really buy it. But I think, I don't know. I think it kind of goes back to I don't think Lex's motives for hating Superman I don't think we're getting enough character drive for those motivations. And then you can see that play out in the last scene where Superman confronts Lex in his little, like, floating, like, cage. And I think it's like we've said, I think there's a lot in this movie that got chopped up. And I think there's just a lot that gets glossed over. And I think like you could see Lex's disdain for him. It is so strong. But the whole time I'm going, okay, I get it. Like, people just don't like people because they're not from there. And Lex wants to be the one that's in control. Ultimately, he wants to be the one in charge. He wants to be, you know, king, messiah, whatever. He wants to be the head honcho. And this alien has shown up and it's going to pull that all away from him. But at the same time, I was like, that's really it? That's really the only motivating drivers we got here? Is that Superman is better than him and so he hates that? Like, that's it? Okay, sure. Like, I don't know. It just, that was my big, I don't know.
Yeah, I think from my point, I'm kind of in agreement with the two of you where it's not, well, it is a bit of a problem how quickly everyone turned, but it was more of a problem that they didn't show people come to his defense in a way that makes sense. Like people say, make it make sense. Well, if you've got this person that can destroy the world or who's been sent here to destroy his world, he's been doing his thing for 3 years, and what kind of long game is he playing that he's just going around saving everybody when he could have destroyed or taken over at any point in time, clearly, and then he turns himself in? Like, what proof are you showing that he is who they say he is? And clearly he's not.
Yeah, he
And
could have
so,
homelandered that whole field just in that moment. I mean, geez,
yeah,
you know?
there's so many things he could have done to prove, like, oh, cat's out of the bag. Okay, I guess I will be evil now. So,
Yeah.
but he didn't. So it's like, well, you could at least shown one news clip of one alternate side saying, well, I don't buy that he is this villainous person, just to make it seem like it was sort of balanced and not everyone in the world except for the deli store owner had turned against him,
Right.
because that's pretty much all it seemed like he had coming to his defense. But
Right.
yeah, that was where I bumped up. It was just like there's not one person that was a dissenting, the rational mind. Even Mr. Terrific should have been one who would have been able to rationalize the fact that,
Yeah.
hey, if he's all these things you say he is, then he could have easily have taken over the planet a long time ago, but he hasn't.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Michelle, did you have any last things before we wrap up?
I guess the only thing I didn't really talk about, and I won't go too crazy, but like, yeah, I'm not a fan of this Green Lantern. And I think some of the humor just doesn't land from the Green Lantern for me. And this makes me sound like I'm a prude. And obviously you guys know me very well. And I definitely have a horrible potty mouth. And I'm very, rough around the edges. But like the Green Lantern throwing up middle fingers, like at the same time, it's justifiable because he is trying to stop, a country from just completely decimating another one. But at the same time, I was like, I feel like this might be an edge too far. Like, I don't know. I think at the end of the day, I'm like, this is a Superman movie. That it seemed a bit too much for me. It seemed pretty crass. I was kind of like, really? Like, is Guy known to be the crass Green Lantern?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well,
But I do get what you're saying in terms of in the context of a Superman movie, kids seeing this and stuff. I get that complaint, but yeah, I would say it's on par with the character.
all right.
Very much so.
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know. I was watching it. I was kind of going, James, I mean, you had me until this moment. And now I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like, it was just kind of like, oh, you just had to go that extra little bit, huh? All right.
Like I think about my kids seeing the movie, which I'm actually very curious, especially say my daughter, to watch this movie.
I'd be very curious.
I think she would enjoy this movie. Actually, there's a good chance she would enjoy it quite a bit.
I think she would.
And do I have a problem with her seeing that scene? No, like it's fine.
Right.
Like,
I mean, there's some words that get dropped throughout the
Yeah,
movie. I
you know.
mean, I don't know. It just was kind of like, ugh. But as a whole, I would say that the jokes they had for Guy, I thought were just big wah. And like, I don't know. I just was like, they're just not funny jokes. They're just not landing for me.
I was skeptical about Guy going into the movie just based on seeing his portrayal in the trailers. Overall, I thought he was fine. Like kind of like I said earlier, I'm almost indifferent about him. Like I didn't love him like I did other characters, but I didn't hate him either. I don't know. I guess if I think about my expectations going in, I was actually somewhat pleased it wasn't like worse.
I'm on the other side of it a little bit, but just by a little, in terms of I thought he worked mostly. There are times, like Michelle said, that certain things don't work for me.
Right.
And so it was kind of like, but in terms of the way Nathan plays him and the characterization of how he is, I felt rang true. And just the fact that I saw an interview with Nathan Fillion, and he was talking about how he will be dropping multiple F-bombs, more than he's ever said in his life for any role, when he appears on Lanterns. So I was like, that's interesting. And so if you don't necessarily like his character, he says that his character does seem to go through an arc, because not only will you be seeing him next in Lanterns, but you also see him before that in the
Peacemaker season 2. Yeah.
So
Yeah, I was gonna say it's from Peacemaker.
we will be getting more Guy Gardner, and as in the comics, he does go through an arc in terms of being a little less crass and in your face about certain things.
Well, and I can't speak to everybody, but like when it comes to like the Lantern lore, I don't know a lot of Lantern in like lore. I didn't read a lot of Lantern growing up. I think for a basic Lantern knowledge that I have, it's just not a character that I think works for me, Guy, but whatever. it kind of just is. I was just gonna say one other. I'm sorry. I know I feel like I've been talking a lot. One last thing. I like the last needle drop when Superman is kind of recharging back at the Fortress of Solitude, the Iggy Pop song. I thought that was actually pretty cool too. I like that. It was a nod to what he was trying to tell Lois.
Right.
I liked it. Yeah, that one worked for me too.
Cool. Bobby, did you want to say something?
I did, but it wasn't about that. I think it was what we were just talking about, but I forgot what we were just
the
talking
lanterns.
about.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, I think it was about the lanterns thing, but I don't recall what it was I was going to say. So,
Sorry.
Yeah.
No,
it wasn't you. It was just I forgot.
I was trying to think if I have anything else. I'm sure I'll remember stuff after we're done here, but nothing is coming to mind.
Well, I hope I portrayed that I'm still mixed on this movie. I don't hate it. There are things I enjoy. Hopefully I didn't just trash the whole thing.
And I mean, in context to that, I guess I mean, maybe I've come across a little defensive of the movie, but like I said at the beginning, I'm going to see this movie a second time, and I'm curious to see where I fall after that second viewing, because I am mixed, but I'm mixed to positive.
Before I get to what my final thoughts of, I do remember what it was I was going to say, and it kind of had something to do with the Guy Gardner thing. And while that scene with the tanks and the middle finger and stuff like that, it comes across, a certain sort of way. I was curious because you mentioned kids, which would be worse for parents, I suppose. That scene, which is a little, pointed, no pun intended, or the scene where Jimmy Olsen gets selfies of his girlfriend or the girl, and you see all these pictures of her in provocative poses and stuff. I wonder what parents are like more trying to kind of like having to dance around to explain to their kids. I suspect. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I suspect in this case, it would maybe be the guy scene because it feels a little bit longer, and the other scene is pretty quick. You see him scroll through the camera roll pretty quick, but had it been a little bit longer, I would go the opposite way and say maybe parents would, because it always seems to be the case that at least in the United States, we're more okay with violence than anything that's innuendo, sex, and that kind of thing. But
I think, yeah, if it had been any longer, I probably would have said both. But the pictures go by very fast. You really can't see a whole lot there. If anything, if there was any scene in this whole entire movie that I'd be like, I don't think that's great for kids to see, it would be the Lex shooting the guy. That's a rough scene for a kid to watch.
Yeah, that's true.
That I think is the darkest thing in the whole movie.
I mean, maybe I guess because like you guys both just pointed out, the scene of him scrolling through the photos is very quick. I mean, I guess my quick look at that was like it was a bunch of basically selfies and stuff. Like, was there more there that I missed?
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe I missed. I didn't realize they were really sexual. I just thought that it was just her posing.
I thought it was just her being like posing and like cute selfie kind of BS. Was there like stuff in her underwear or something that I didn't see?
I know.
No, there was nothing like that. There's just a lot of the posing and I wouldn't say anything overtly sexual, but it's just that amount of pictures being sent to a guy kind of thing. The more the implications or subtext of you want your daughter seeing that idea of you're sending these pictures to a guy, kind of thing.
I follow you now. Okay. Yeah, I would also agree still with the middle finger stuff is, or like you just pointed out, the gunshot.
I think the only thing I think for me, I think Eve is set up in such a ditzy, whatever, I'm a social content creator way that I think most kids would go, ugh, that's just who she is. Whatever.
Right. I would agree with that too.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts? I think that's gonna do it.
Yeah, like I guess I said, so I did land more mixed negative on the movie, but as a whole, in terms of what this universe is presenting to us and these characters, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that and being able to see what else is in store, because James Gunn did say that while his movie has this tone, don't expect all DCU movies to have the same tone. So there will be vastly different feels to the way we get movies. And so I'm looking forward to other artists, directors, writers bringing their ideas into this universe and seeing how they mix and melt together and seeing what else we get.
I would agree with that. Yeah. I'm looking forward to DC continuing to develop right now. I think it's interesting to see what pathways they go down. And I say that because I feel like Marvel, it's very distinctly gone down one way. And I don't think it's like I'm watching Marvel's ship sink, but I think Marvel is, they're trying. They're struggling, but it'll be interesting to see DC grow. I think we might see a slight shift in the near future when it comes to those two, if they were to battle it out. As far as the movie goes, I'm still mixed, honestly. I don't know if I should be paddling towards Bobby's boat or trying to reach the island of happiness. I don't know yet.
Yeah. I would agree. I'm looking forward to the rest of this universe. And then, even though I'm mixed to positive on this movie, I do like the world it's setting up. I do. I'm curious to see where we go from here, especially in terms of the Batman of it all.
Yeah. There's the weird part.
I've definitely heard, James Gunn say, like, as this universe continues, there's going to be differences in tone from like superhero to superhero, as there should be. But but when all you have really so far is this one live action movie, and you look at the tone of this and think, okay, we're going to have a whole DC universe and it's kind of going to be somewhat at least similar to this. I can understand maybe a Batman fan going, how is Batman going to fit into this? Yeah. I'm sure it will. And I'm not worried that it won't. I'm just looking forward to seeing the kind of Batman we're going to get. And I will say to anybody who's like, oh man, the Matt Reeves Batman should just fit in. I would like to think once you've seen the Superman, you would go, okay, yeah, there's no way.
There's no way.
There's absolutely no way that Batman would fit in this universe. And I can't wait for Batman Part 2, and I loved the Batman, but no, that is perfect as an Elseworld situation, and it should stay that way. But I'm very curious to see what kind of Batman we are going to get as a big Batman fan, and
whenever that does come down the pipeline,
and how it will fit into this. I'm just super curious to see that.
Agreed.
With that, I think we're going to wrap things up. For those of you new to the show, we invite you to please like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos or go live like this in the future. We lately have been doing a lot of trailer reactions, and such. But we'll probably be doing more reviews like this as well. So we look forward to having you along for that. You can also find us on Instagram and Twitter /X at Flickr_effect as well. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for watching and listening, everybody. Bye-bye.